feel like I should be saying I yield my time to the man from Colorado. Yeah. How exciting. Every time I listen to Dr. Cranworder speak, I just think more about what our founding fathers were thinking about and how they did what they could within their confines to combat slavery. And then I think about how we're living now and what can we do within the confines of our environments to fight slavery, and it's pretty impressive. So quickly I'm going to go through some abolitionists today. What are people saying today, and then how can we get involved? So if you notice on your schedule today, we're going to be really just highlighting a lot of great people that are speaking and doing things in the name of the anti-trafficking movement today. Also, feel free to, when you go down the hallway, look at some of our vendors, find out how they're using their natural talents and resources to end this horrific issue as well. I am going to attempt to do the clicker. So, all right. I guess I can't move around too much. Move over. So this was a quote that impressed me. Oftentimes people tell me prostitution, Debbie, is the oldest profession. It's never going to go away. I love Norma's comments. Prostitution is the world's oldest oppression. This is kind of wordy. In the pandemic problem that is human trafficking, people who are nameless, faceless, voiceless to the outside world are being bought, sold, beaten, caged, silenced, exploited every day. It will take the collective effort and the will of governments, advocates, law enforcers, prosecutors, politicians to set them free and to abolish this sinister problem for good, and we must. When men stop purchasing the bodies of women and girls, this horrific industry of violence will be brought to an end. Unless sex buyers are punished, women and girls will continue to be exploited. You agree? Working to end sex trafficking, and this is from a woman that's working in the industry. So working to end sex trafficking, she recalls a pimp's modus operandi. Young girls, especially troubled girls. You promise them heaven and they'll follow you to hell. It's impossible to describe the experience of being owned by someone else, but what I can tell you is I will work tirelessly for the rest of my life to stop other people from having the experience that I had to go through. Here's just one example of a modern abolitionist, what they're doing in LA. And we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but it's something to think about. They're not combating in something that they're using media to go after it, whether it be billboards or in bus stations, rest areas. It's a silent message, if you will. So here are some community-led resources. Raise your hand if you're from Pueblo. Do I have any? I have a couple of Pueblo. So absolutely, we have the Alliance to Combat Human Trafficking that's in Pueblo. Raise your hand if you're from Denver. Do I have some Denver folks out there? There's an anti-trafficking alliance that meets in Denver. Fort Collins. Are my Fort Collins friends here today? Thank you for coming. You guys have the anti-sex trafficking community response team up there. And I know you're doing some grassroots efforts, so I'm excited. Obviously, here in the Colorado Springs, you have the task force. There's lots of other NGOs, but the task force is here from a community-led perspective. And then Western Slope. Do I have anybody from the Western Slope? That would be phenomenal. So there's some grassroots movements out there too. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Now I got a heavy hand. Okay, so NGOs. So there's community-led ways to get involved. And there's also lots of NGOs. And I'm going to go through them pretty quickly, and some of them are represented here today. So CASA, Restore Innocence, Sarah's Home, Yobel Market, Urban Peak, the Joel Home, Colorado Springs Rescue Mission, Colorado Springs Dream Center, TESSA, Support Foster Care Programs, Laboratory to Combat Human Trafficking, Lutheran Family Services, Homeless Outreach Programs, I Empathize, and Truckers Against Trafficking. So there are so many ways to get involved in this. I can't tell you. When you leave, my hope it is when you leave here today, you will find another modern day abolitionist. I wish that we could have Jefferson and Washington and those guys here and Lincoln so we could chat with them. But let's find modern day abolitionists within this community right here and partner alongside of them. You can make a difference. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. Sarah's going to come up and introduce our next speaker, but you're going to see from here on how we can make differences every day in our modern day environment.